Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister Chris Tremaine.
Tēnā koe,
Tēnā koe.
mana whakahaere. Tēnā koutou. Tihei mauri o rā. Whai te pai tā whiti ki a tātou. Whai te pai tātou. Whakamaua ki a u, ki a tina. Tēnā koutou. Ki te whare e tunei, tēnā koe. Ki ngā hoa o Parimata, tēnā koutou. Ki Ngāti Raukawa, tēnā koutou. Haere mai nau mai ki te whare Parimata, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Well, kia ora and good morning. It is a huge privilege to be one of the speakers in the history of the settlement process. And while I don't pretend to be one of those who has led the charge in this area, if we look at the history of the settlement claims from both sides of the House, there have been men and women here who have worked to bring settlements to a head. And today I'd like to acknowledge the Select Committee who can't be here, led by Tau Henare, obviously stuck in fog, as other members of the House have alluded to, who have worked collaboratively across the House to bring these settlements and this second reading of the Raukawa Claims Settlement Bill to the House. Can I acknowledge Minister Finlayson, who has worked, as Minister Parada pointed out, tirelessly to bring many settlements to fruition. For those that are interested, there have been 68 treaty settlements across New Zealand. 42 of those have come to fruition since 2008. We are well over halfway to or through the treaty settlement process, which is indeed a milestone. And if I reflect on the mihi that I used at the start of my kōrero, my whai kōrero this morning, that talks about reaching for the big goals, the stars, going after our dreams. And I think that's certainly one of the dreams that not only Māori, but I think many New Zealanders now have, is that we can progress through these treaty settlements, get through to the end of them, we can look to the future. Because if I talk to many of my constituents, there have been concerns historically about the time frame with which it's taken, and concerns about the cost of it. But when you actually reflect on what it is now achieving, it is well worth the process, well worth the time, well worth the investment of the Crown in these settlements. In regard to Raukawa, the second reading, as in each of the bills that have come before the House, there are different idiosyncrasies or different situations that have arisen and how each of the iwi or hapu have arrived at the settlement process. In regard to Raukawa, they are here with this process because they became landless. And actually that lack of land and resources undermined their ability to form an economic base, to be part of the economy. And actually, that's really, really important, because when you're not part of the economy, if you're not in work, if you don't have businesses, it's really difficult to see a future. And having that ladder, having your people, I guess, in business and in jobs, it provides aspiration and a strong future. So I think that these settlements are the foundation to providing the economic base that is so necessary to providing that aspiration and that future for so many New Zealanders, and in this case, Raukawa. The redress in Raukawa's situation includes an apology for the actions that arose through the land wars and through that period. The Crown acknowledges and profoundly regrets, unreservedly apologises to Raukawa for its actions. It apologises and regrets its actions during the New Zealand land wars of the 1860s, and it apologises for its past failures. Of course, there is some commercial redress that goes hand in hand with this. Raukawa will receive approximately $52 million. And it's interesting to reflect on that, because some constituents of mine always look at the number, the dollar figure, and they go, oh, it's been millions, it's been hundreds of millions, it's been billions. Well, in fact, it hasn't been that large. If you think about the total appropriations of the New Zealand government on an annual basis, somewhere around sort of $78 to $80 billion, which is, pretty significant. But if we add up the total that we've spent on treaty settlements to date, above the envelope, but about 1.5, 1.4, 1.5 billion. In the greater scheme of things, it's not a significant appropriation, but certainly one of the best investments we can make. In this case, $52 million to Raukawa. I note that it also includes the opportunity to purchase part of the Puriora North Crown licence land, which, if I understand correctly, Puriora Forest is obviously below Tokoroa, which is where the rohi of Raukawa exists. But for those that are interested, Puriora is now the start of one of the great New Zealand cycle trails, which I managed just before Christmas. I decided I'd take my son and do the trail, and just a few days before Christmas, an 84-kilometre trail from Puriora down south through the old timber trails there. And for anyone who's listening, and if you're into cycling, I've got to say that was one magic ride. And I'm not sure what opportunities will come for Raukawa with that particular land. Maybe it's forestry, but I think if you can get into the tourism around that cycle trail. We stayed with one lady in the Blackfern Lodge. Just to, there's some on different sides of the house that said that the cycle trails would never be successful. Well, this particular lady used to have 450 bed nights per year. She's now over 3,000 as a result of the trail. So those are the opportunities that come from tourism and investment. There are other opportunities for Raukawa here, 25 Crown-owned properties, which they will have the opportunity to purchase in and around the rohi there. Raukawa will have the first right of refusal for a period of 172 years on a further 36 Crown properties. In addition, there is some cultural redress, a cultural fund of $3 million, a po whenua fund of some $50,000, where po can be built, established around the rohi on sites of cultural significance, which I think is an excellent thing to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to stand and be part of the history of these treaty settlements. I'm looking forward to speaking in the Mongahururu Tangitu treaty bill that comes up next, which is from my own rohi of Hiritonga of Hawke's Bay. But yes, it is a privilege to speak in these historic treaty settlements. Can I wish Raukawa all the best as it progresses through to the third reading and to final settlement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kei te pai.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member Mecca